Good evening. Just testing on the microphone. It is working. I'm Deputy Mayor Godwin Chan, and tonight is 7 o'clock. And Mayor West just appeared on the screen as well. Unfortunately, he's not feeling well. So Mayor West, I wish you get well very soon. Thank you. I'm calling the meeting to order now that we have quorum. We don't have any regrets from anyone. Is that correct, Ms. Kirk? Okay. So, okay, thank you. And that's for the record. And before I actually formally call to order, I'd like to read a public hearing statement. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting like tonight, or making any written submissions to the City of Richmond Hill in respect of proposed official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and or plan of subdivision or condominium, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City Council to the local, well, it changed now, it's called to Ontario Land Tribunal, and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal. In the opinion of tribunal, there are reasonable grounds, unless there's a reasonable grounds to do so in the opinion of that Ontario Land Tribunal. Now, but tonight I want to emphasize it's council public meeting. Council is not going to make a decision tonight. However, this is the opportunity for the council to actually hear from members of the public any comments on this application, of course, as well as council members. On that note, I would like to call the meeting, council public meeting to order. First, adoption of agenda. Could I have a member of council please move for adoption of agenda? Councilor Tree, thank you. I need a seconder. Councilor Davidson, thank you very much. So we have a motion for adoption of agenda tonight. All those in favor, including members who are on screen, and it looks like unanimous approval. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, so noted, Mr. Clerk. We go into the scheduled business. So the first one, 4.1, is request for comments. It is regarding a zoning bylaw amendment application. In this case, we do have a city file, ZBLA 24001 by Shahab Matuku, 257 Harris Avenue. So the first, we would have our city staff, planning staff, to make a presentation, which is the order of council public meeting. So in this case, I would ask our planning staff to come forward to make a presentation on this zoning bylaw amendment application.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor West, Deputy Mayor Chan, members of council, and members of the public. Tonight's public meeting is being held in regard to a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands municipally known as 257 Harris Avenue. Thank you all for being here. Next slide, please. So this slide here just shows an aerial view of the subject lands, which are located on the south side of Harris Avenue, east of Beach Avenue. The subject lands have a total lot area of 0.419 hectares and presently support a single detached dwelling, which is proposed to be demolished to facilitate the proposed development. The lands on the north side of Harris Avenue are subject to a draft approved plan of subdivision to permit a low-rise residential development, and to the south are conservation lands owned by the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Additionally, the lands to the east at 229 Harris Avenue received zoning approvals in November 2021 to permit 6 semi-detached dwelling units. The subject lands are designated neighborhood and natural core in the city's official plan. Permitted uses within the neighborhood designation include low density and medium density residential uses, including semi-detached dwelling units. Permitted uses in the natural core designation are generally restricted to fish, wildlife, and forest management, conservation projects, essential infrastructure, low-intensity recreation uses, unserviced parks, and accessory uses. Additionally, the subject lands are located within the Harris Beach infill study, a priority infill area identified within the city's official plan. The Harris Beach infill study provides guidance for the redevelopment of the neighborhood and identifies 4 development scenarios for primarily low and medium density residential development within the study area. The subject lands are presently zoned urban zone under bylaw 128-04 as amended. The urban zone permits existing buildings and structures and limited residential uses, including single detached dwellings. The type and form of development proposed by the subject zoning bylaw amendment application is currently not permitted under the urban zone. Next slide, please. The subject zoning bylaw amendment application seeks to rezone the subject lands from urban zone under bylaw 128-04 as amended to semi-detached to semi-detached 1 zone and environmental protection area 2 zone under bylaw 235-97 and implement site-specific development standards to facilitate the development of 6 semi-detached dwelling units. The southerly portion of the subject lands are proposed to be zoned environmental protection area 2 to ensure the long-term protection of the existing woodlands on the property. The boundary of the proposed environmental protection area 2 zone corresponds with a 10-meter buffer taken from the drip line of the woodland, taken from the drip line of the woodlands as staked by the TRCA and the city's Park and Natural Heritage Planning staff. The zoning bylaw amendment application and supporting submission materials have been circulated to relevant city departments and external agencies for review and comment. Next slide, please. This is just a graphic showing the proposed building elevations as viewed from Harris Avenue. The subject application seeks a reduction in the minimum required side yard, and the proposed development complies with all other development standards, including minimum lot area and frontage, minimum yard setbacks, and maximum building height. Next slide, please. This slide just shows three renderings of the proposed development as viewed from Harris Avenue and as prepared by the applicant's architect. Future consent applications will be required to facilitate the creation of the proposed lots and to assign a servicing allocation. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal and has been structured for information purposes with a recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Now I'm going to invite, I believe the agent or planning agent for the applicant is here. Please come to the podium there and you have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening. My name is Aidan Pereira. I'm with KLM Planning Partners. Good evening, Mayor, Councillor, Chair, members of city staff and public in attendance. I'll keep this short and sweet. Mark, I appreciate the presentation. A great overview and synopsis in terms of what's being proposed. Just next slide, please. So the municipal address of the property there is 257 Harris Avenue, which is generally located west of the intersection of Jefferson Side Road and Yonge Street. The subject lands are just about under half a acre in size. Half a hectare in size. And generally, the area would be generally characterized as part of low-rise residential housing typologies, which is predominant in this area. Within the last decade or so, through the Harris Beach infill study, there has been a series of infill development projects that have been happening. More recently, there's been a development application for a draft plan of subdivision directly across the street, which will have a mix of semi-detached single and townhouses that will be there. We're kind of changing the complexion of the residential developments within the area, as well as bringing municipal servicing along Harris Avenue. Next slide, please. Within the City of Richmond Hill official plan, the site is designated neighborhood and or natural core as per the city's official plan. Semi-detached dwellings are permitted as a use within the neighborhood land use designation. As a part of our development application associated with the zoning bylaw, all of the residential development and site grading and alteration would be confined within the neighborhood designation. And everything, all the site alteration and any works associated would be set back well outside of the ORM natural core designation. And making sure as a part of this as well, and development studies that were done, these features associated with the ORM natural core, there's a woodland that exists at the rear of the property. This was staked in consultation with the city of Richmond Hill staff, as well as the TRCA, and an appropriate 10-meter setback will be provided. Generally, right now, there's a variation in terms of the setback from the actual built form. In terms of the back of the semi-detached buildings that will be proposed on site. They're approximately ranging from about at the closest 36 meters. So it's well set back. They're very deep lots. It's going to be set back 36 meters from the woodland itself. And then approximately anywhere from 24 and a half to 27 meters to the actual buffer to the woodland. So there's adequate setbacks. There's going to be very large rear lots, rear yards for amenity use of the semi-detached buildings proposed, as well as kind of balancing out, ensuring that the woodland will be essentially adequately buffered and planted in terms of establishing and creating that additional ecological benefit to the existing woodland that's there. Next slide, please. So as I alluded to before, this area is in the Harris Beach infill study. This was kind of a catalytic sort of, I guess, moment in terms of this study coming into place, kind of leading development in terms of providing infill in that transition from what would be your low-rise residential in terms of more urbanizing standpoints in terms of smaller lots, different from the existing fabric that was there in terms of would be generally around that acre-sized lot with low-rise residential with developments that are serviced by essentially septic tanks and everything else. So next slide, please. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to essentially rezone the lands and bring it into bylaw 23597 to include these lands to facilitate the semi-detached dwellings in the RD1 zone and essentially ensure that the environmental area in the back with the woodland and its appropriate buffer would be zoned at the EPA 2 zone. Next slide. The proposed development will facilitate 6 semi-detached dwellings. Largely part and whole, the zoning bylaw amendment seeks to stay generally within the RD1 zoning standards. There are some minor site-specific exceptions in terms of just providing some additional design flexibility in respect to having doors on the side yard and reduction on that end. Next slide.
I hope you'll wrap it up. It's actually 4 seconds over.
Yeah, oh, very close. So currently on the screen right now is just a snapshot in terms of the architectural site layout in terms of where the buildings are. You can see the staked limits in terms of where the drip line is, the setback being applied, the 10 meters, as well as the rear yards.
Thank you. Yeah, that's I give allowance for another, 18 seconds or so.
Yeah, no,
but thank you. Everybody subject to 5-minute rule. Thank you very much for your presentation. And is there any members of the public who would also like to give comment? Now is the opportunity. If you do come to speak, please state your name and your address. I'm calling for a second time. Any member of the public who is in the chamber would like to speak on this particular application. Calling for the third and last time. If you want to speak on this matter, please come up. As I indicated, everyone has 5 minutes to speak, but first introduce yourself and also the address for the record.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of the council and planning staff and city staff in attendance and the public. My name is Ray Booty Warman. I act on behalf of Evans Planning. I'm just requesting to see if this is the perfect time to speak in terms of my development, or not my development, but in regards to this development. So we act on behalf of Countrywide Homes, and we are simply here just to ensure that the current or future owner of 257 Harris Avenue enters into an arrangement with our client to facilitate the payment of their proportionate share of the cost of installation of municipal servicing prior to the issuance of building permits for their lands, or alternatively, their payment of the proportionate share of these costs can be a condition of approval of any future land division process.
You still have 4 minutes.
Okay, we have no issues with the development. Hopefully that I can keep talking, but I would rather save the time for you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And is there any other member of the public who would like to address council public meeting? This is the time. So I think I called 2 times already. I make it the 4th and final call. Any member of the public in the chamber would like to make a comment to council on this application? Seeing none, I would like to bring the matter back to council. This is in Ward 4, I believe. So first, I have the local councillor, Councillor Tree, and the next speaker will be Councillor Thompson. Councillor Tree, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Through Mr. Chair, welcome to all the public and also our applicants. Also, not sure you're coming from another maybe as well. So thank you so much for coming here for our city chamber discussing this plan. I got a little bit background about the plan as well, so I do have a few questions. Look at the history of this piece of land. I just want to confirm a few times. I think you mentioned already regarding to the TRC's requirement, 10 meters buffers from the fence of the property to the edge of the city lines. So that's why it's guaranteed. In the new plan, we're definitely going to follow the agreement for the previous report. So there is no conflict. We apply for all the requirements for the TRC, right?
So through me, is that to Ms. Graham? Was that, or maybe the director, acting director would like to answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair to Councillor Tree. Yes, the TRCA has been involved through the processing of the application. The development limits have been signed off in accordance with TRCA regulations. As well, the zoning boundary also reflects the drip line and the TRCA limits for the site. So we should have no concerns in this regard.
Okay, perfect. This is my first question. Second, regarding to the bylaw zoning. I know this one being zoning to the RD1, and I know on the north part of this road, there are a big land over there. What is the bylaw zoning on the other side of the street?
So again, the chair, who would like to answer that? Would that be Mark or Kaylin?
I'm just trying to compare what we already approved and what is this one for. This is RD1 zoning. On the other side of the street, I know we have a lot of townhouse being approved. What is that RDA?
So I would through the chair to Councillor Tree. If you take a look at the map on the report, map number 3, it actually gives a little snapshot of the zoning categories that are around the subject lands. So because the area is mixed with both single detached and semi-detached, there are differing zoning categories. Across the street to the northwest is an RD1, as well as on the same side of Harris, there's another RD1 zone category. So it's a mix of both single and semi-detached. So there are similar zone categories in the area.
Okay, we do have existing case. I did not realize this is so complex. Too many binding zoning is only one piece of land. Okay, thank you so much. My next question regarding the street. Personally, I went to that street for quite a long time, few times. And majority concern because the road is not maintained very well. So in the future, if you have more builders come to this one, is this going to be a plan to revitalize or rebuild this road in here? That's Harris Avenue here.
Acting director.
Through the chair to Councillor Tree, yes. So this whole area is undergoing redevelopment, and this stretch of Harris is one of the few areas that are kind of, if you will, lagging behind the other areas in this area. So as part of the works that are being done by the proponent that spoke on behalf of the citywide, what was it? Sorry, countrywide homes. They are doing the urbanization of all of the roads in this area, as well as the installation of services. We'll bring this all up to city standards in terms of what you would see in a typical subdivision in terms of road network and servicing.
For the services, it's not being provisioned or budgeted by our city. It's actually budgeted by our applicants. Is that right? So where's money come from?
So through the development charges, the applicants will be paying their perspective, their proportionate share. Countrywide is front-ending some of the cost of the services and the road construction, and that's related to the correspondence that was received by council. So quite typically in a area that is being developed, the landowners get together and they share the cost of those services being installed. That is what the countrywide representative is requesting, is that this owner also prepare the proportionate share of the costs for upgrading all of the services and roads in the area.
Okay, thank you so much. I have my last question regarding to the side yard minimum requirement. Now is 1.5. If I look at the map, I think there are only two gaps in between. If each one is only 1.2, is that good enough, or is that going to be a standard for many new houses be approved for 1.2 as a side yard spaces?
Acting Director.
So through the chair to Councillor Tree, 1.2 meters is a typical side yard setback requirement across the city, and especially in newer areas. As you would see in the report, the Harris Beach infill study was done a fair time ago. So it may have reflected a little bit larger setbacks, but 1.2 is pretty standard, and it allows for unencumbered access and any type of grading or servicing that may need to go in between the homes.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't have further questions.
So Councillor Tree, as local council, would you like to move the motion?
Sure, I can move
which
it.
is in the staff report on page 1.
Okay, is there any other councillor has questions, or should I move first? I can move it.
Well, you're the local council. I
Yes.
just provide you with the first opportunity to do so.
Let me move it. Thank you.
You are moving it. Thank you. So now I'd like to turn to another speaker, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, the chair. I do have to, I mean, given the history of this whole Harris Beach area and what we've seen in the past, I'm really surprised by the turnout of individuals that are here this evening and actually not having anybody from the public speaking. So I have to ask just to make sure that it's clear to the public how we did our notifications and circulations. I asked through you, the chair, if that could be if an overview of how this meeting was advertised, it would be appreciated. Thank you. Ask the staff.
Now, this is a question about notification. Perhaps it's more appropriate for Mr. Clerk to respond.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, upon, I suppose, receiving a complete application, a notice of complete is provided, and that also will indicate when a PPM meeting would happen. So that is sent to homeowners or property owners 120 meters around the property, and then they would certainly have the opportunity to come out to speak if they choose to, or they certainly can write in written correspondence. As you can see, I believe we only received one piece of written correspondence.
Thank you. Anything to add from Acting Director? Nope.
Thank you, Chair. Just in addition, there is a sign posted on the property with the details of the public meeting date and time. Also, we post something on the city's website as well.
Thank you for the answer. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the response. I know that this is always an area that people are concerned about, that they don't get notifications, and 120 meters. I always thought it used to be 200 meters, but I'm obviously wrong on that. Okay, I will move on from that, but it is concerning to me that that what we're looking at. I mean, you got properties that are 110 feet wide here, so 120 meter circulation doesn't sound like too much to me, but that's for a different day. I'd like to turn to map number 5, if I could. I just need a little bit of clarification here. When we look at map number 5, it shows what the natural feature of the property is, and it appears that the bulk of one of the properties right now, I mean, if this is going to be severed into 3 semi-detached lots, the one property to the west looks like it's going to be predominantly natural feature. And I've read the TRCA report, and I'm assuming that this is what they're talking about with the grading, that would be addressed through the grading part here. If I could just confirm that my suspicions are correct, that's TRCA felt there wasn't an issue with grading, and that was okay to grade that property to deal with the way that swale was. Am I correct? Yes, no?
Acting Director, please.
Correct, Councillor Thompson, through you to the chair. In actual fact, the boundary of that natural heritage feature is actually through the policies of the official planner is allowed to be refined through those studies that you referred to. So as part of the natural heritage evaluation that was submitted for review by both TRCA staff and the city staff, we determined that the actual feature was further south, which would allow for the site to be developed as proposed.
Thank you. Councillor
Definitely
Thompson.
appreciate the response. Thank you. Through you, the chair, I do want to make a comment about the servicing. I know this is not unusual, and that this came up a number of years ago, that particularly when a property might come in late in the game saying, oh, well, now that servicing's all here, I'd like to take my property and do something with it. So I certainly understand where Countrywide Homes is coming from, and I certainly agree with that. So I guess my question is, where and how in the process would that actually get addressed?
Acting Director.
Through Councillor, through the chair to Councillor Thompson. So in this instance, typically it would come through as part of a condition of a plan of subdivision. In the absence of that, in this situation, it would have come through as a condition of consent. So the letter that was submitted to city staff is placed on record, so that when the applications come forward to create the lots, they will be conditions of consent. And that at that time, the applicant will be required to prepare a cost estimate of those, the value of the services to those lots. And the city staff act as facilitators to ensure that they pay their proportionate share relative to the services that have been installed in the area.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the response. Those are all my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would Councillor Thompson, since you're second one to speak, are you prepared to second the motion? Councillor Tree has moved on to actually send all those comments to staff. I'll refer back to them, because this is to be received in terms of staff report. It's for information purposes only.
I'm willing to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. So we have a mover and seconder. And before I move on to Councillor Davidson, would Mr. Kirk, would that be subject to this mover and seconder? Could it also be included the particular acceptance or receiving the correspondence, or you prefer to have a second? Okay, I believe this most expedient way of doing it, mover and seconder. So not only the staff report received for information purposes only, refer all comments back to staff, but also including receiving the correspondence 4.12. Would that be okay? Thank you. So we can vote on one motion later on. Sorry about the delay, Councilor Davidson.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, looking at map 1, I'm sorry, I find a hard time translating it to the sketches. Those trees at the very south part of the property, are those going to remain? Do we know at this point?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, they're part of a woodland feature, so they are proposed to remain.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Is there any other members, particularly council colleagues who are actually attending virtually? Any questions, comments by my 4 colleagues who are attending virtually? Don't seem to see any. I do actually want to seek clarification. I believe on page 7, well, not believe it's right there. It does mention about the Harris Beach Master Environmental Services Plan. Now, it did indicate it was completed 10 years ago. I just want to be absolutely clear. Does that mean any further issues since then? It's almost a decade ago. Is there any particular issue other than from TRCA? Any things that need to be looked at, reviewed, updated? I guess for myself to be acting director.
Thanks, Chair, for that question. So as part of the development engineering review, they will take into consideration all the development that has happened in the area. So as part of the development review of this application, any changes that may or may not have been dealt with in the original MESP will be taken into consideration as part of the development engineering review of this proposal.
Thank you. I don't have any other things to comment on. The only thing that I noted that Councillor Thompson expressed concern about the attendance, or maybe not as many members public showing up. I'm just drawing reference to page 3 of staff report. Just back about maybe 6 weeks ago or so, there was actual public consultation meeting as part of the city's collaborative application processes. And at that time, it was noted right in the middle of that paragraph, no residents attended that public consultation meeting. So I just want to raise that point. But certainly there are always opportunities for members of public to contact the city, particularly our planning staff, in regard to this application. So seeing no other members is interested in offering comments, I'd like to call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. And Mr. Clerk, that is carried unanimously. Now, this is a fun part of the evening. Any member who would like to move for adjournment? I mean excitement, but not that intense excitement. Okay, thank you, Councillor Tree, and also Councillor Davidson. A second, I take it. All those in favor? Thank you. Oh, we have, it's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, staff, and thank you, Clerk and your colleague. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.